Good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to welcome you to this significant event dedicated to raising awareness about hepatoblastoma, a rare form of pediatric liver cancer. My name is Allison Chaffee. I serve as the administrative coordinator with a special focus on patient engagement at Eureka Therapeutics, Inc., a pioneering clinical stage biopharmaceutical company nestled in the heart of the Bay Area in California. At Eureka Therapeutics, our mission is clear: to innovate novel therapies for the treatment of cancer, particularly solid tumors such as liver cancer. Today, we embark on an enlightening journey to learn more about hepatoblastoma alongside esteemed guests who share our passion and dedication. Before I introduce our guests, I would like to take a moment to share what hepatoblastoma is. Hepatoblastoma is a rare form of liver cancer that affects young children, where the average age of onset is just 3 years old. It originates in liver cells and can spread to other parts of the body if not treated promptly. Hepatoblastoma accounts for a small percentage of childhood cancers overall, with approximately 160 children impacted in the US each year, but nonetheless the most common type of liver cancer in children. Hepatoblastoma Awareness Day is observed on May 25th every year. This Awareness Day aims to educate the public about hepatoblastoma, raise awareness about the signs and symptoms, and advocate for better support and resources for affected children and their families. I would like to introduce our guests, my fellow Eurekan, Dr. Nicole Nunez, who is the Associate Director of Regulatory Affairs and Patient Engagement at Eureka. Her scientific expertise and passion for helping patients have been instrumental in our quest to combat hepatoblastoma. In addition, we are privileged to host a remarkable individual whose advocacy has touched the lives of many. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Christina Stiverson, the visionary founder of the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network and Addie's Research Foundation. Christina became passionate about rare pediatric cancer research and helping other mothers through grief after her 3-year-old daughter passed away in 2016. Her transformational story recently captured the hearts of millions when she was featured on Tony Robbins' Time to Rise Summit. Amidst her volunteer work and coaching business, Christina finds immense joy in her life as a wife and mother to her 3 beautiful girls. She is the driving force behind the Foundation for Addie's Research, a beacon of light in the fight against hepatoblastoma. With over $500,000 raised for pediatric liver cancer research, her unwavering commitment to this cause is nothing short of extraordinary. She is also the founder of the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network, an invaluable resource offering support, information, and hope to families, those affected by this rare disease. Currently serving as the president of the Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation, Christina is at the forefront of the initiatives aimed at advancing medical research and providing support to families facing similar challenges. Without further ado, let us embark on this insightful conversation and unite in our shared mission to make a difference in the lives of those affected by this disease. Hi, Christina.
Thank you guys so much for having me be part of this podcast. I really appreciate it. And I love this opportunity to share my story and share what we do and really support your trial, which I think is phenomenal. And so happy to be involved. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Can you share your personal journey with us from the diagnosis of your daughter to the founding of the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network and Addie's Research Foundation?
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Allison. That's kind of a long, a long question, right, to answer. But let me just start with my daughter Addie got diagnosed with hepatoblastoma at the age of 2, which was back in 2015, and I had been taking her to the emergency room for months, and like a crazy mom, nobody could figure out what was wrong. And finally, we were actually living up in Alaska with the military at the time, and we came back to Colorado for Thanksgiving to visit family, and I took her to the children's hospital, and within 8 hours they knew something really was wrong, and they diagnosed her already with hepatoblastoma, which was completely unexpected. I mean, complete shock. Never did I think that my child had cancer when she was just experiencing high fevers, she was throwing up. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. So immediately we started chemotherapy here in Colorado. We actually never went back to our home in Alaska. We stayed here for treatment because her treatment wasn't supported up there. So we lived in my husband's high school bedroom, and we made it work, and we started therapy here. And then within a couple months, the doctors realized that her tumor wasn't responding to kind of the prescribed therapy, and we were moved on to liver transplant. She actually got a full liver transplant, which we are entirely grateful for, and she recovered beautifully so fast. And we thought this was going to be the curative answer for her. But a couple months later, we took her in, and her AFP marker that you guys will talk about wasn't dropping the way it was supposed to. And I think that's when we knew something wasn't really right. And we had seen a relapse in the lungs several months after her transplant. And so then we tried additional chemotherapy. We kind of tried all the options that we could. And then I think it really came to a point where I heard a doctor say, you should take her to Disneyland, or, and that's when I think it hit home for me that we were kind of out of options. She had had a seizure in the fall where we didn't know what was wrong, but actually the cancer had spread to her brain. And so we lost her a couple months after that in December of 2016, after about 10 rounds of chemo and 13 months of fighting. But I will say that we are grateful that we had that time because of the liver transplant and even all the treatment. She was such a trooper, right? All the videos that I have of her smiling, even through treatment, kids are so resilient. And so I take a lot of that strength with me daily on my journey. And one of the things that we became passionate about during her journey was research, because we reached out worldwide for treatment options, trials, any other options for her, which she had sort of an aggressive form of hepatoblastoma that people weren't really sure how to treat. Even the best hepatoblastoma specialists were communicating with us, and there was just nothing more. So we became passionate about research. We actually donated her tumor tissue when she passed away to research, and we were excited about that. And then we began the Foundation for Addie's research after she passed away, and we're really interested in preclinical research. And our whole goal is to kind of drive therapies to a phase 1 trial and give more options to kids like Addie. So we raised a lot of money kind of our first year, and we were able to start research through the Children's Cancer Therapy Development Institute in Oregon, where her tissue is stored. And we were visiting there often and working with the researchers. And so that became our path kind of early on after she passed away. I will say that about a year after she passed away, we adopted another daughter, and we had already had a younger daughter that when Addie passed away, she was 1.5. So now I have 2 little babies that I'm managing and trying to spend time with and be present for. I have a military career that I'm working through, and I also start a nonprofit foundation because we're passionate about research. And then what we realized shortly thereafter, after we began this research, is that the community was pretty fractured, and that the lead researchers weren't talking, the lead clinicians were talking at this liver conference that we later have engaged in now. But we've really thought, that we needed to bring the community together. So that was a next big initiative that after we started the foundation, we wanted to pursue. And I modeled it after some of the other rare cancer pediatric communities that I saw be successful. And so we created hepatoblastoma.org, which became the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network, because what we were finding was that a lot of people were finding the Facebook page, but they would ask the same questions over and over and over again, and they would just be on repeat. And people are looking for connection, right? Parents are there because they're looking for connection of some sort. They want to know the latest trials. They want to know if things are normal. They just want to connect. And so our idea was to build a centralized resource that was credible through clinicians, researchers, and surgeons, along with a parent support network that would drive that holistic approach. And so we created the resource network, and I've been doing it now for over 5 years.
Wow.
And I'm very excited about it. It's one of the things I'm most passionate about, aside from raising money for pediatric cancer research and moving us forward in the hepatoblastoma space. And it's one of the avenues that has led me to you guys, right? Because we get to connect the whole community and bring people together to talk about the latest trials. And that's one of the things that I love about it. So that brings us kind of to today, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have. So thanks so much, Allison.
Thank you, Christina. Wow.
It's a
You
lot.
do a lot, and yeah. Thank you for sharing your story with us. How have these organizations made a difference in lives of families affected by hepatoblastoma?
Yeah. So as you guys know, right, research is slow.
Yeah.
That's one of the hardest parts about having a research foundation is um, we've been going now over 6 years, and it's been hard to see the progress in the research hasn't gone as fast as we'd hoped. We are making big headway, and we're very excited to partner this year to see the drug that we've been researching go to phase 1 clinical trial. However, that took so much longer than we thought, right? So I would say we are making a difference with our foundation. We've raised over $600,000 and put it all towards preclinical research for hepatoblastoma, very specific. We've really led the community in hepatoblastoma specific research. And so I'm really proud of that. And I feel like we are making a difference. And the day that our drug that gets to phase 1 trial that we researched is a curative option for a child with hepatoblastoma, that to me will make the biggest difference, right? And so we're working towards that. But some of the things I think that make a big difference with the resource network, one, it's connecting with people like you, right? Giving people the latest and greatest information, trials that are out there, and really feeding that connection. I would say that one of the big differences is that now there's a centralized resource where parents can go from night 1 in the hospital to my child is relapsed and we don't think we have any other options. And so we really tried to create something that would span that that amount of treatment. And so I think we've been successful in hosting that resource and keeping it updated and engaging with the clinicians and making a difference for that community to have a clinical creditable resource where parents can go and trust what they're reading. We encourage people to get second opinions. We write news articles on latest trials. We have doctors writing things. And one of my favorite parts about the resource network that I think we make a huge difference in is the parent connection, where when you're going through treatment, you can really feel alone in this journey. Like nobody understands what you're going through. And I've set up a whole training program where we train these peer mentors that they're actually survivor parents that have been through it. And they are really passionate about offering support to families that are currently going through it. So it brings hope, it brings connection. And then if you go to transplant, we have other families we can refer you to learn about transplant and what life will look like afterwards and the side effects and everything you're dealing with, and emotional support, because we all know that it's a challenging time in your life, right? And just having someone to talk to that understands can really be beneficial. So I would say that's one of my favorite things that we've done with the resource network that's made a difference.
Yeah. It is amazing. I feel like you've literally, I'm I wish you had this going through it. I wish you had,
Me too.
someone, but to take all of that and to make it helpful for families, I just think that's so special of you guys. I really
It's
do.
the reason why we created it, right? Because it's what I didn't have. So yeah,
Yeah. As a parent, that is so hard to, yeah.
it's easy
Okay.
to look back
I
and
no.
see what you wished you had, and then you can create it. And so I think that's the power of the network.
Yeah. That's so inspirational of you, Christina. Ah, what would you say some of your biggest challenges have been facing in establishing and growing these foundations?
Yeah, so I spoke earlier about some of the challenges of a research foundation is the return is not immediate, right? We
Yeah.
don't get to give out teddy bears and see smiles on kids' faces. It's a long haul commitment,
Mhm.
years and years of research to see things through to the phase 1 trial. So I will say that that is a constant motivation for me to stay motivated, but I don't get this kind of immediate return on my investment. So you have to just kind of keep going and be strong there. And research is also hard to fund. It doesn't feel like people are in a hurry to um, fund research and move forward. So it's people get emotionally touched when they can give somebody a teddy bear and help their current situation. But if you're saying, I'm trying to fund things for the future, much like what you guys are doing, right, with trial medicine, that it's just a lot harder. Fundraising becomes harder. The challenges are increased, and people are. I'm always keeping our donors updated on the progress we're making, but it never seems like it goes fast enough. So I would
Yeah.
say that's one of our challenges. And then challenges with the resource network is just keeping people involved, right? Everybody ebbs and flows with their involvement in the community. And so keeping that consistent amount of peer mentors and parents and clinicians involved, because it's ever changing. So I am always kind of updating and upgrading our network. And so just keeping up with that is a little bit of a challenge, remaining committed and having committed families year after year. Um, can be a challenge, but otherwise I think it's going great. I welcome the challenges, right? It gives me new opportunities to do new things and think outside the box. So
All right. Thank you.
yeah.
What have been some of your most rewarding moments you have experienced in working with these organizations?
Yeah, so I spoke about the parent connection, which I think is a really rewarding program
Yeah.
for me personally, because I think that's something parents need, right? It's like a number one need um, of humans, just connection. But we were able to, one of the coolest things we did is we pivoted during COVID when we couldn't have an in-person conference. And we actually had a completely parent-led conference run by the Resource Network that I'm extremely proud of. We had over 100 people registered and attending from 18 different countries. So
Wow.
like, how cool is that COVID led us to a virtual conference where people from 18 different countries were seeking treatment for their children, talking about survivor side effects, and engaging with some of the top clinicians and researchers in the world. Um,
That's
and I think that's one of our coolest successes. And it was led by parents,
yeah.
right? I think the clinicians in our career field are very holistic approach. They have a very um, holistic approach where they want the parents involved. And oftentimes I will say that things funnel through the parent network faster than they do through the clinicians, right? Clinicians have 100 patients, but
Mhm.
parents have one mostly.
Yes.
um, so they're very focused on novel treatments and everything that's happening in the community, and they're very vocal about it. And so the latest information flows really quickly through the parent network. And I'm really proud of that because we've had a lot of parents bring our research, our published research articles, our podcasts, our news articles that we write, bring that to their clinician and say, I saw this on a website. Are we eligible for this therapy? Will this work for my child? Right? It seems like we're out of options, and I saw this that you may not know of. there's a reason they call it practicing medicine, right? And there's
Mhm.
a reason we get second opinions, because we just can't expect every doctor to know everything. So
Right.
I do think that creating that conference and that resource for people has been extremely rewarding. So
Mhm. It has. How do you balance the emotional toll on your personal experience with the demands of these leading foundations?
that's a great question. It's actually pretty challenging, right? Because I have little girls now that are 6, and my oldest one is going to be 9 this week, and it's a constant challenge between balancing between what I want to do as a mom and be available to them in the evenings when they're home from school and be that school mom, but also I recently retired from the military last year, so balancing a career, nonprofit work. Now I do grief work and foundation work, and as well as my primary love right now is parenting my 2 little girls with my husband, and um, finding, the emotional balance. Sometimes I'm drained from giving all day to people, but it also brings back the reward of doing good things and connecting people and making progress and driving things forward. And so I get energized by that too. It's a delicate balance each day where I set aside certain hours to do this work, and I'm passionate about it, and it does fill me up as well. I need to take a break in the evenings, focus on the family, um, and kind of balance that out. One thing I am looking for is more parents that want to be involved in the hepatoblastoma community. Right, we're looking for a little bit of a refresh after 5 years, so more interested parents to help me better balance. Uh,
Yeah.
all of the demands right now. So yeah.
You're superhuman, seriously. I don't know how to do
I don't know about that, Nicole, but I see a need and I know what needs to get done. And um I'd like to be able to do it 110%, but I'd like to have more help to do it at 120%. So we're not all tapped out. We're all in a work-life balance, but we're making great progress. So yeah.
You are. In what ways do you collaborate with medical professionals, researchers, and other organizations in the field of pediatric oncology?
So I do think the conference that we've actually had, um, this will be we've had the 4th conference. This next year will be the 5th conference now, which is
Wow.
phenomenal. And
Yeah.
we tag on to the International Liver Tumor Consortium, that the providers have, and the researchers and the doctors will stay to engage with the parents. We actually have like a parents conference attached to that. And so I think that's one of the most impactful things that we do to connect directly. I don't know too many places where when your kid has a rare pediatric cancer, you can actually meet the top doctor that's treating that in the world. Um,
No.
Coming to that conference. And so I would say that is really how we keep up. And then I run the network where we have team partners, clinicians, researchers, surgeons, and they're always keeping me up to date on the latest thing. We send out newsletters, and we're always meeting personally with whoever we can to network, to keep our community connected. And that includes you guys. So, that's kind of how we interact. It's a constant effort though to stay present and current and keep going. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about any specific innovations or projects that your organizations are currently working on?
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is actually the preclinical drug volasertib that we've been researching for years, is now gonna, with partnership with a biopharma company, we are gonna see it hit the clinical trial this year into phase 1 trial, which is really, really exciting. And so I would say we're making progress there, and we're making different partners along the timeline as we go to move ourselves forward. And then we're partnering in Europe as well, in France, to develop some drugs for kids that are resistant to platinum series drugs.
Mhm.
And Yeah, we're really interested in some of the new developments for preclinical stuff that we're trying to move forward, but and we have our hands in a lot of pots of preclinical work that we hope develop into um, things. We've published some papers, we've researched the liver cell of origin, we've done quite a lot where we've set a baseline for things, and now we can move things forward. And so we're always looking for new opportunities, new drugs, new novel therapies, things that we can feed the seed money for to start these projects. And then once you have kind of a proof of concept, you can move forward with them. So that's kind of the purpose of our foundation, is to provide that seed money so it can be multiplied for bigger grants once we have like a proof of concept. So much like you guys, I love hearing about, I am excited to hear about your new grant and everything like that too. So you guys know how small amounts of money can lead to bigger amounts. And so yeah, that's kind of our goal.
That's really exciting. How can individuals and communities be the best support for your organizations and the families that you do serve?
Yeah, so I will say that just involvement, staying involved, is probably the most support that I need right now. And even letting us know about the latest research opportunities, right? We're monitoring what are kids struggling with today, and what kind of options could be out there to solve those big problems. So just staying in touch with the resource network through hepatoblastoma.org, staying in touch with Foundation for Addie's research, and just keeping up with us. I would like some extra parents to volunteer time with the research network, the resource network. In the future, we're going to have a conference in 2025, and I'd love to bring on some new talent that is motivated and interested in a reinvigoration to keep everything current and the latest and greatest information available to parents. And so, yeah, just stay in touch, contact us, and let us know how we can help you too.
What advice would you give to other parents who may be facing similar challenges?
I think the biggest thing I could say right now is just that you're not alone. And we've created this community and this resource for you to help you. And I know it can be isolating. Treatment is not easy for anybody. Hearing your kid has cancer, not easy for anybody. So we're here to support you, and we built this network for you. So please reach out, please be a part of our community, please stay involved, please honor your child in any way that you can. Please use our resource for learning about survivor benefits and things down the road, challenges, connecting with families, all the things that I mentioned. Please reach out to us, because we created this to help and connect. And so I hope that we can continue to do that.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you guys so much for engaging with our resource network and realizing the value of the parent network and the voices that we have to spread the information about trials and all the things going on and the latest and greatest in the communities. So I want to thank you for your partnership as well. It's not always easy for the professionals to reach out to the parents and realize their value as well. So I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate that you see value in our connection and partnership.
Looking ahead, what are your long-term goals for the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network and Addie's Research Foundation?
Oh, let's see. Oh, I think we're just going to continue on our path to raising more money. I'm always looking for the latest and greatest next preclinical research project. We just had a meeting yesterday with a provider, and we're learning about immunotherapy, T-cell stuff, just like what you guys are doing, maybe on a more local level. And so we're always looking for the innovative solution. And how we can seed that, and then fundraising more money, right? I hope one day we get to $1 million. We're doing like $100,000 a year pretty consistently, and I hope we can get there faster, right? So we can do more faster with research. And then the resource network, I want this to live far past me and pass it on and have it continue to help families and continue to allow that connection and continue to have parent presence at these conferences and create those connections. And that's just, I hope this can all really continue. And I hope that we get more phase 1 trials that save lives and create options for
Yes.
kids in hepatoblastoma that have kind of this rare aggressive form that is resistant to traditional therapy, and these relapse patients, much like what you guys are doing. I'm hopeful for constant partnerships, continued partnerships in this space to really drive our community even more into the future. So I am truly grateful for you guys.
Thank you, Christina, for sharing. Is there anything else you would like to share with us?
I think
feel
you guys
like
did
you
a great
shared
job.
so much, and wow.
You guys had all the
Mhm.
questions for me. So I just really appreciate the partnership, but thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to hearing Nicole talk about all the details of this trial because it's very, very exciting. So thanks again.
Christina, on behalf of Eureka Therapeutics and everyone present here today, I want to extend our deepest gratitude to you. Your willingness to share your personal journey with us is both courageous and inspiring. By opening your heart and sharing your experiences, you have shed light on the realities faced by those affected by this disease and have touched our hearts in a profound way. Your advocacy and efforts through the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network and Addie's Research Foundation are making significant impact on the lives and families and patients worldwide. Your dedication to raising awareness, supporting others, and advancing research exemplifies the true spirit and compassion of resilience. Thank you, Christina, for your unwavering commitment and for being a beacon of hope for so many. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Nicole Nunez, who serves as the Associate Director of Regulatory Affairs and Patient Engagement at Eureka Therapeutics, where she spearheads the development and implication of regulatory strategies for T-cell therapies in the fight for cancer. Her role also extends to fostering patient engagement for Eureka's clinical trials by educating patients, families, healthcare professionals, nonprofits, and beyond about Eureka technology. Dr. Nunez holds a PhD in bioorganic chemistry with a designated emphasis in biotechnology from UC Davis and an MS in biochemistry from San Francisco State University. She is also a military spouse and mom to 2 girls ages 2 and 4. Dr. Nunez will now help us dive into what Eureka is doing to combat hepatoblastoma in hopes of making a positive impact in the lives of those affected by this diagnosis. For our viewers who aren't familiar, please share with us a little more about Eureka Therapeutics.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison, for the introduction. And thank you also, Christina, for being here. And I'm just so excited to talk about Eureka. So first, Eureka Therapeutics, we're a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company located in the heart of the Bay Area in California. And we were founded about 18 years ago. And really, we're a group of trailblazers that are trying to tackle big challenges and really do this through continuous innovation. And as you mentioned earlier, Allison, our mission is to find a cure for cancer, especially those that are difficult to treat. In particular, right now, we're really focused on our relapsed and refractory liver cancers of various subtypes. And when it comes to these difficult to treat cancers, we believe that T-cell therapy might be the best approach to deliver on that promise.
This would be a great place to start our scientific discussion. Let's start by asking the obvious question, what is T-cell therapy?
Great question. We definitely get this a lot. So first, I want to talk a little bit about what your T cells are. T cells are your body's natural fighters against all sorts of bad guys, including viruses and bacteria, things that make you sick. So what do we do to make T cell therapy? Essentially, we are taking your T cells and we're going to engineer them to fight your cancer. How do we do this? Well, first, a patient undergoes a procedure called leukapheresis, which for the patient is very similar to a blood donation. We then take your T cells out of that blood, And we modify them in a process called genetic engineering, which is just a fancy term for saying that we're going to add an additional piece of DNA to your T cells that already have some DNA in it. And this is very similar to when you're writing like a computer code, for example. If you want to tell your computer to do something new, you're going to write a new code that tells your computer how to do that new thing. And so in this case, the code is DNA, and that DNA that's added to your T cells is essentially telling the T cell, hey, in addition to looking for bacteria and viruses, we want you to look for this specific type of cancer. And this has actually been wildly successful in the clinic. For example, there's several different types of T cell therapies that have been FDA approved for the treatment of blood cancer, especially not just in adults, but also in pediatric patients as well. One of the most well-known stories is that of Emily Whitehead. And for her, she's now, I believe, 11 or 12 years cancer-free since she received her first dose of T cell therapy for her type of blood cancer. So you can see that it's, it really holds a lot of promise in serving as a cure for different types of cancers.
Yeah, thank you for explaining more on that. What is unique about Eureka Therapeutics' approach to the development of T cell therapies?
Yeah, so far a lot of the FDA approved therapies are in blood cancer, and that's mainly because when it comes to solid tumors such as hepatoblastoma, they have additional challenges that you don't have in blood cancer. So for example, blood, it's easily replaced. If you have blood cancer, it's easy to get rid of blood and then put new blood into your body. Whereas with solid tumors, it's in a very specific location in your body. And you also need to be really careful that you're only hitting the cancer cells and not the rest of that body part. So if you, for example, hepatoblastoma, if you have cancer in your liver, you only want to hit the cancer cells in your liver. You don't want to attack the entire liver. So you have to be really cognizant of what you're going after. The other issue is in terms of targeting. So when it comes to blood cancers, a lot of times the targets, meaning whatever's on the outside of the blood cancer cell that we're trying to go after, it's extracellular, meaning it's on the outside. So it's really easy to target that. But when it comes to solid tumors, it's not that easy. A lot of the targets are actually on the inside of the cell. And so that's really difficult for scientists to be able to target something on the inside of the cell. In addition to that, the last thing I want to bring up is really just the physicality of it, of the different types of cancer. So when, like before I was talking about for blood cancer, in this case, the blood is flowing throughout the body. Whereas when it comes to solid tumors, the solid tumor, it's kind of in the name, it's a tight, solid mass of tissue. And so you're trying to get T cells that have to penetrate their way into that solid mass. In addition, when it comes to solid tumors, they have these things called toxic microenvironments, which means the tumor cells, they're really good at putting out all of these signals that tell your immune system, don't attack me, I'm a normal cell, or they'll put out things that actually kill your immune system. So you have all of these physical barriers in addition to chemical that you're trying to get over when developing the treatment for solid tumors as compared to blood cancer. So to address these different issues, Eureka developed our Artemis T cell therapy technology platform. And this features two types of code, aka DNA, that's added to your T cells. So the first code we call E alpha, and E alpha is what tells your T cells how to find only the cancer cells among all the normal cells. So as you recall, just from what I was saying, that this is really important when fighting solid tumors. The second code is called Artemis, and the job of Artemis is to tell your T cells how to fight and destroy those cancer cells. So even if the cancer cells are clumped together in a tight toxic mass, Artemis has the ability to keep attacking that solid tumor cell while at the same time mimicking your T cell's natural biology. This is one of those limitations that are with the T cell therapies for blood cancer, because a lot of times they have all of these side effects like cytokine release syndrome, as well as neurotoxicity that's associated with them, because for those old type of T cells, they were essentially designed in such a way to keep fighting and never turn off. Well, that's also bad too. You need to have a feedback mechanism so that way when that T cell's job is done, it stops producing those chemicals that are going to attack cells. So really you need both this E alpha code as well as this Artemis code to fight solid tumors.
All right, thank you for explaining that. How were you able to leverage this technology and apply it to developing a potential treatment for hepatoblastoma?
Yeah, that's a great question. So some types of cancers, like liver cancer cells, they'll overexpress certain types of proteins that aren't usually expressed in the cell. So this goes back to what Christina was talking about, looking at that AFP marker. It's also called alpha fetoprotein. And whenever you see this AFP number rise, which is commonly used as a diagnostic in a clinic, you know something is wrong. This is because AFP stops being expressed shortly after you're born. So if you go to the doctor and they perform a lab test and they see that your AFP is unusually high, that's going to raise some red flags right away. So knowing this, we took that E alpha piece, the targeting piece, and we designed it in such a way that it will only go after AFP, which sounds easy, but it actually isn't, because AFP is actually an intracellular protein that also can leave the cell and float around in your body. So we had to design it in such a way that it only goes after AFP when it's actually being presented on the outside of the cell. So that was the first part. Then the second part is that Artemis technology. And that's when, after E alpha tells the T cell to find the cancer cell, that's when the Artemis part kicks in and it says, now you've bound to your target, now it's time to attack. So it will start releasing things called cytokines, as well as other chemical signals that says, okay, attack this cell and only this cell.
Hey, Nicole, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
So
please.
we occasionally do have kids that are tumors that are non-AFP producing. Is this not a good therapy for directly going after those AFP cells?
That's a great question. And yes, so this type of therapy is really for those that are expressing AFP.
Got it. Yep.
Patients that don't express it, there are other types of targeted therapies available to them, but we will say that, you know, around 70 to 80% of pediatric patients do express AFP. So, you know, it is a wider patient population.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just asking for those few parents that have the non-AFP producing tumors that are looking, that would be another therapy for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And now this technology is currently being evaluated as a U.S. clinical trial. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, definitely. So our phase 1 clinical trial for pediatric liver cancer is called ARIA-2, where we are evaluating ET140203 T cells, which again are just your T cells transformed into cancer-fighting T cells for the treatment of pediatric liver cancer. This trial is for pediatric patients with relapsed or refractory hepatoblastoma, hepatocellular carcinoma, or hepatocellular neoplasm not otherwise specified type of liver cancers. And it's for pediatric patients that are between 1 and 21 years old. So with this clinical trial, we're hoping that we can show not only our T cell therapy can be successful in solid tumors, but that children with late-stage liver cancer have another option besides countless rounds of chemotherapy. So in essence, we hope our trial will give hope to the solid tumor community as a whole.
Can you tell us what's new with the ARIA-2 clinical trial?
Yeah, definitely. So some of our viewers might already know that the ARIA-2 clinical trial has, we've actually been working very closely with Dr. Allison O'Neill at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, Massachusetts. And we're also really excited to announce that we've launched our second site at the University of California, San Francisco, Benioff Children's Hospital in San Francisco, California, with Dr. Arun Rangaswamy. And so we're so blessed to work with these 2 different hospitals and offer ET140203 T cell therapy to pediatric patients battling hepatoblastoma across the US. We're also excited to share that just this past year, we were awarded a $10 million grant from the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine. And as Christina was mentioning earlier, like this is really important because when it comes to doing groundbreaking research, especially that's in early stage preclinical phase 1, funding is one of those things that you can never have enough of to move your science forward. And so we're very thankful for this CIRM grant, and it's allowed us to move our ARIA-2 trial forward and also expand it to patients that are battling these types of pediatric liver cancer. And I think the last thing I wanted to note is, this platform is also being evaluated in another clinical program. And that program is actually already completed phase 1 in adult liver cancer and moving into phase 2. So we're really excited because it kind of shows already that because in phase 1, you're really looking at that safety component. Phase 2 clinical trial, you're looking more at efficacy in learning how well your drug works. And so we're really excited to show that how we've designed this drug as a whole is showing a really great safety profile, and it also has enough promise to move forward to show that demonstration of efficacy, which we're hoping to show in phase 2.
Awesome. Can you explain the role of regulatory affairs in ensuring the innovative treatments for hepatoblastoma, such as T-cell therapy, meet the necessary safety and efficiency standards?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to, us thinking about how we're going to design our clinical trials, the first thing that's the most important is safety, patient safety. We've seen over the last several decades what it's like for patients when safety is not factored into a clinical trial. It has to be the number one thing that any drug maker is thinking about, because these are real people, real patients, these are real kids. And so that is the biggest thing that we focus on, when not just in the trial design, but in how we designed our drug as well. As we talked about before, we put a lot of consideration in making sure we're only targeting cancer cells and we're not going to target anything else in the body. The other thing that we really think about is how we can work closely with the FDA to make sure that we're hitting all the checkpoints that we need to ensure that our drug is both safe and efficacious. So we constantly have communication with our with anyone that we have to interact with at the FDA to make sure that we're hitting all of those benchmarks that we should. And I think the other biggest important factor as well is that at Eureka we know that there's a need for new treatment options, and that gives us a sense of urgency. We're not just a 9-to-5 kind of company. We're constantly thinking about what are the needs, what do we have to do to address these. Time is of the essence, and we need to do something now. And so I really do think that's a big thing that we factor in at Eureka.
Absolutely. What are some unique challenges in patient engagement when it comes to hepatoblastoma, and how does Eureka Therapeutics address those?
Yeah, I do think that this goes back to also, what Christina was talking about, that, this is an ultra rare disease. We're talking a few hundred kids a year in the US. And thank goodness that there is resources now like the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network, because we're, just like Christina in Alaska, we want that family in Alaska to know there's resources for you. There's a trial potentially for you. And so it's making sure that we can reach these families that are spread out all around the US and make sure they all have equal opportunity to healthcare. And so that's one thing we're really focused on, is working closely with organizations like Christina's organizations, and trying to make sure that our trial is getting out there to not just physicians, but also the families. Because like she was saying, it's impossible to expect physicians to know about all 3,000 clinical trials for liver cancer on clinicaltrials.gov right now. But when it comes to a parent and you have one patient in mind, I bet those parents know all 3,000 clinical trials on clinicaltrials.gov. So I think it's really important that we focus on working with nonprofit organizations like Christina's to, get the word out there and make sure, parents don't just take, the first doctor opinion they get. They get second opinions, and they take their child's care into their own hands, because that's your kid, and you're their number one advocate.
Agreed. What advice would you give to families and caregivers of children battling hepatoblastoma, especially in terms of staying informed about available treatment options in clinical trials?
Yeah, kind of going back to what I was saying, clinicaltrials.gov is not the most user-friendly website, and that's coming from somebody who does regulatory for a living. So I think it does help, having these nonprofits like the Hepatoblastoma Resource Network can help educate you about what trials are out there, what doctors you should talk to. So I do think getting connected with an NPO will help you feel less alone. And it will also open up all these doors of communication. So that way you can get a lot of opinions from families about what worked, what didn't work, what were the issues that they faced. And it's not always just treatment related. Honestly, we've had a lot of conversations about, there's, issues with your health insurance, issues with relocating to where that trial is, so there's so much that goes in. It's not just, whether or not a treatment works. There's all these logistics that are involved. And so I really think that it's important to get connected with these NPOs, so that these nonprofit organizations, so that way you can be the most educated about making decisions for your child's health. And yeah, and I, again, I think that parents are your child's number one advocate. And, if you feel like you're that crazy mom or that crazy dad, you are not crazy. You have a right to get a first, second, third opinion. You have a right to ask for a test to be redone. You have, again, your child best. Don't let somebody with an MD or a PhD tell you that you don't. So please, you want to work together with your healthcare team, but again, it's your kid. And I really stress enough that, don't be afraid to advocate for your child. No one will blame you for it.
Looking ahead, what are your hopes for the future of hepatoblastoma treatment? And what role do you envision Eureka Therapeutics playing in that future?
So for me, if I had to pick, one thing that I'd really like to see, it's safer treatments with less side effects. And, as Christina said before too, it's not a fast road to a cure for cancer. Otherwise we'd already be there, right? For everything. And we learned that within cancer, for example, liver cancer, there's all these subtypes and all these different stages for each subtype, and they all have different challenges that you have to address. And so when it comes to that, I really think it's important that people aren't just thinking about how can we be efficacious, but how can we be safer? We don't want people to just keep creating new versions of mustard gas, aka chemotherapy, in order to, kill all the cancer cells, but at the same time, you're destroying the child's quality of life. You're creating all of these long-term health effects, loss of hearing, all kinds of things that are going to impact them for the rest of their life. And this, especially for hepatoblastoma, this age group is, we're talking like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. These kids have their whole life ahead of them. So yes, obviously you want to have an efficacious treatment, but I really want to see more safer drugs out there. I want to see that being the conversation. And I want to see more companies talking about that. Yes, we saw all these great results, and this patient is doing great. They're living their best life. So that would be my hope.
As a parent, I can second that, Nicole, that people are looking for less toxic treatments, right? And we've known for a long time that immunotherapy can be that. And so I love this treatment for people as an option, because it is so much less toxic, and it's going towards the targeted cells, and it's a targeted therapy. And I love that about this, right? Because I saw all of the side effects of the chemo, and it is so hard, and some of them are so long term. And so I second that, and I love what you guys are doing, and that's also a consideration. And so one thing I wanted to ask you was, is there any plan for this to be international, right? Like in the future, because we have people all over the world that are dealing with this, and that's what they're going to ask.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we definitely would love to go international. Right now, we're hoping to do our proof of concept in the clinic, and we want to show that we have this great safety profile, show that early signs of efficacy. And then our hope would definitely be to take it worldwide. I totally agree.
For those listening and want to learn more about Eureka Therapeutics and your clinical trial for children battling liver cancer, where can they go to get more information?
Yeah, so, please visit our website at www.eurekaconnectme.com. This is a place where you can learn about what pediatric liver cancer is, what our T-cell therapy is, our clinical trials. And honestly, you can reach out to us, contact us if you want more information. If you reach out on that website, you're going to talk to Allison or I get, so we are the people who are responding. This is the face of the person that will respond to you on that contact us form. So please don't be afraid to reach out. Our job is, to try to get you to the next best resource. So even if after an initial conversation, if for some reason maybe you're not eligible for the trial, we would then, for example, connect you with Christina or connect you with a physician. Allison and I will never drop your hand until we put it in someone else's hand, as I know Christina does the same. So please, reach out to us if you have any questions about our trial, about our therapy, about anything that we've talked about today. We'd be happy to answer those questions.
Dr. Nunez, I want to take a moment to express my gratitude for enlightening insights to the science behind T-cell therapy and its potential application in treating hepatoblastoma. Your expertise was truly enriched in our discussion today, providing a deeper understanding of the complexities involved in combating this disease and the potential in innovative therapies such as ET-140203 T-cell therapy. Once again, I'd like to thank our special guests, Christina Stiverson and Dr. Nicole Nunez. Your participation in today's discussion is a testament to the power of community and collaboration in driving positive change. This concludes our discussion today. And with that, I'd like to say thank you to our viewers. Your presence is what makes this event truly meaningful and impactful. Together, we are united in our mission to make a difference in the lives of patients and families impacted by hepatoblastoma. Thank you.